Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Spartan Nation Radio. It's now time for the good, the bad, and the ugly with Spartan Athletics. We bring in the legendary State of Michigan High School basketball and football coach, the great Chuck Grenier, the man that men fear him, women adore him, puppies follow him, and clowns worry that they're going to see him hiding in the sewer, the great Coach Chuck Grenier. Coach, how are you?
I'm good, I guess, yeah. How are you today?
Admit this, your introductions get better and better and better and better, don't they?
They're unique. They're certainly unique.
Coach, my War Room article is out. You saw where, I talked about none of this is confirmed with Mark D'Antonio. He's not talking to the media. But at the coaches' convention, I talked to multiple college football coaches that were there, and I took some of the information and talked to people within the Michigan State administration. It appears, and again, until Mark D'Antonio confirms it, it's only what we're hearing, but we're hearing it from multiple people. Jim Bowman gets moved to an analyst role, and it's probably, so they're looking for someone to replace him. Potential new offensive coordinator, possibly, but they're going to need someone to replace him. And then the fact that Terrence Samuel, the word on the street is that he will not be back, and they're going to bring Harlan Barnett back. I want to get your thoughts because more than one of the college football coaches said to me that they thought that was a crying shame that Samuels was taken off of wide receivers, let alone let go. If that happens, how does that make you feel? Are you okay with Samuels basically not being retained if that happens?
Well, it's definitely an interesting situation going on there, and the information that you're talking about is in the War Room. It does scratch your head a little bit with Bowman going to his role and Samuel apparently leaving the staff. It's strange to be, you bring in Harlan Barnett. What's Harlan going to be doing? And it's just really strange the way things. It's like you're sliding checkers around in the same game. I don't understand what's going on out there. They'll, it goes a couple weeks ago. I brought up that old saying. It's no good to be rotating ball tires. And if you're going to make changes, make changes. And some of the changes, Samuel did a good job, I think, his last year as a receivers coach. And obviously you saw last year's team a decline in the production of the receivers, it seemed to me. And I don't know what's going on there, to tell you the truth. It is really strange.
All right, so let's talk about the fact there could be a possibility of a new offensive coordinator or at least a co-coordinator potentially. Doesn't mean, and again, this is what we're hearing from coaches who are at the College Football Coaches Association meetings, and it's what we're hearing when we took that information to some of the administrators. So we're not saying it's a done deal, because I'm going to tell you this, through the process, I've had someone who is very close to D'Antonio, very close, tell me something and call back and say, nah, he kind of changed his mind. So until he does what he does, but here's the deal, Coach, if you're going to potentially bring in somebody who could be the new coordinator offensively or an assistant. Now, again, they could just leave Brad Salem there and come back as a position coach. It would seem like you would have wanted to react a lot quicker because a lot of those guys are off the market now. And the delay doesn't seem to be making sense.
No, it's like you're stuck on the same old treadmill you've been stuck on for the last couple of years. You're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. Does that mean that Salem was gone? I don't know. This is just so strange.
I did not hear that from anyone that Salem would be gone.
But to bring in, and one of the problems we talked about last week was that you have a committee running the offense. So if you bring in another coordinator or you bring in a co-coordinator, that just adds to the committee running the offense at that time. So again, it just doesn't sound like we're stepping forward. It sounds like we're shuffling the deck and hoping for a different game. I just don't understand.
Now, I want to make it clear Not one coach I talked to said it was done that they're bringing in a coordinator. They said they could be a position person, could be a could take over coordinator. None of them knew, but they were just saying what they were hearing, and it was all being heard. I mean, the same thing was repeated to me on in some cases at least 3 times, in some cases 4 or 5. We're talking to a guy, like I said, the immortal wonder. He enters a room and his wife announces him. All hail the great and wonderful Coach Chuck Grenier. And in fact, he is called the legendary Coach Chuck Grenier anywhere he goes. When he makes a reservation for dinner and they say, "Who's it for?" he says, "The legendary Coach Chuck Grenier." Isn't that true, Coach?
Yeah, it gets me a cup of coffee wherever I go.
All right. So, Coach, now let's continue to talk about what I thought was one of the most disturbing things in the War Room, where former players from the pre-D'Antonio era are very frustrated. They're reaching out to the staff with recruits that they coach, that they're related to, or that they know who are high-profile, big-time recruits, and the staff is ignoring them. I mean, that makes literally no sense to me, but I heard it from multiple Spartan dogs. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that does sound strange, too. You look at Michigan State roster and the amount of brothers that are on the roster, and you would think, and also legacies that are on the roster, you would think that that'd be a regular pattern, and if you're looking at recruiting football players with good lineage, you would go to the legacies, of course. So that doesn't make a lot of sense either, that he's not venturing out into those areas. I know we picked up Snow this year, but other players that have been there, those are good teams, good genetics, good sound people that you should be recruiting for your program.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. So, Coach, I'm going to ask you something. If those are the changes that he makes, Jim Bowman goes to an analyst role. Actually, senior analyst is the term that I heard kept being referred to. I think possibly that allows them to pay him a little bit more money. But if he goes to a senior analyst and they bring and Terrence moves on, they bring Harlan back, is that enough for you?
Well, it still doesn't make any sense. If you bring Harlan back, what's he going to be coaching? He'd be coaching defensive backs again? Is he going to be the co-offensive coordinator? His history is defense. And if you bring him back and he's coaching in the defensive backs, what about the present day coach that you have right out there now? So it doesn't. And then if Bowman goes to a senior advisor and he was the offensive line coach, I'm really scratching my head at this time. It just doesn't make a lot of sense what's going on out there. What you need to do, you have an offensive coordinator in Salem, and I think he did a pretty good job considering what he was up against with maybe the blocking and that sort of thing. So what you really needed was an offensive line coach, a good offensive line coach in there that is going to be assisting the offensive coordinator with maybe some different kind of blocking schemes or something along that line. But, you're shuffling the deck and you don't seem to be taking care of the needs that you need to take care of. And you're not going after legacy recruits. What is going on?
Coach, one other thing from you, and then I want to switch to another topic. But one thing I want to ask you, though, when I asked you, is that enough? I know for a fact of one entity that has a massive amount of tickets that's going to cut their tickets by probably a third, several hundred tickets. I know of others that are simply saying, I'm just not renewing. I know that there will be Michigan and Ohio State fans that will buy season tickets, so they guaranteed seats, good seats, when their teams play here. But with 18,000 people at the last game, Mark D'Antonio's job is in no danger. And I'm not calling for him to be fired. I'm just saying it's not in any danger. He's not going to get fired. Is this a situation where it's just going to absolutely have to hit rock bottom before it's over? Because when Mark D'Antonio says he's coming back because his circles are unfinished, but then can't define how he's going to finish it, Is that lack of vision going to be the death nail in the coffin of Spartan football under Mark D'Antonio?
Well, I think so. I mean, last week we talked, and I said, winning ugly is one thing, but losing ugly is another. And you get 18,000 people to your senior day, and to say goodbye to players that have given their all, their flesh and blood, for the Spartan program, and you only get 18,000 people to show up from that. You lose to an extremely bad win with Illinois, and you see the program declining since.
Did you say a bad win versus Illinois?
A bad loss.
Yeah, okay.
Bad loss. It was a bad win for us, or bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We lost. We had that game in hand and just let it slip away, let it continue on. It was a really horrific loss for Michigan State. And you see that it's been declining since 2017. And, the fan base, the alumni, is just losing faith in the program at this time. It's so apparent, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be getting any better with this craziness of who you're hiring and who you're not hiring. And I see it as really, it's not far from rock bottom right now.
I agree, and it's been declining since 2016. He is the great coach, Chuck Grenier. Coach, as down as people are on Spartan football, and they have every right to be, it's not in a good place. Let's now turn our attention to Spartan basketball. Completely opposite. As always, it's a winner. As always, it's doing well. As always, it's recruiting at a high level. There's just not a whole lot to be discouraged about with Spartan basketball, is there?
No, there's not. I was thinking about this the other day, that how football, it's getting tougher and tougher in football because the coaching in other schools, Purdue, Indiana, all those schools, Minnesota, have really good coaches in there, recruiting really well, and we're having this problem of winning now. In basketball, it's the same story. All those other schools are getting better coaches. They're getting better basketball players on their team. Look how strong the Big Ten is right now. Maybe at this point, 10 of the 14 teams are going to be getting into the big dance at the end of the year. And yet, Izzo is riding on top still. He's recruiting well, and maybe he isn't getting the greatest recruits in history out there, but they're good basketball players. He brings them in, and he develops them. Look at Dave Brown. Dave Brown is really developing into a really good basketball player at this time. I'm hoping for the same thing for Mike Bingham. Kithier is a good soldier for them out there. So yeah, the basketball program is shining. He's got good recruits coming in next year. Rocket Watts is starting to make that big step forward, and they're heading towards March at this time. And I think by March, this is going to be a very solid basketball team.
Totally agree, Coach. For you, and you coach such a long time. Tom Izzo is a good friend of mine. I'm close to the program, around it every day. And I don't think he's getting enough credit for this team's record, considering what they went through with all of the off-the-court problems. They've had a bunch of injuries. Coach, I really believe this has been one of Tom Izzo's best coaching jobs. This team could have fell apart after the death of Zach Winston. He held it together, but I think he did it by just being himself, being raw and being real. You've been around, as I have, for all of his years of coaching. Is this one of his best jobs?
Well, I think so. Because, you hear family used a lot in sports. We're family, we stick together and all that stuff. But if you watch the players talk to each other, interact with each other on the sidelines, on the court, you see that they really are really, really close-knit group. And I think Izzo is got that Italian blood in him where, he's fiery but loving and all that other. And I think Izzo's changed his demeanor on the sideline, too. He still gets a little hot, but he's not anywhere near he was a few years back where he was really edgy on the side. And I think they really come together strong at this point. And the Zach Winston thing was a punch in the gut. And Langford, That's a punch in the gut. And now Aaron's is down, and you've lost ball games that you shouldn't have. I know you should have played better in, but they were sort of staying together. And this last ball game that they played with Wisconsin just shows that they're just so resilient, so strong, and they're together on this, and they're going to be getting better. I think Izzo's doing a heck of a job this year.
He is the great, the one and only, the iconic wonder himself, the great Coach Chuck Grenier. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, men fear him, women love him. He one time visited a convent and had 221 marriage proposals. That's the kind of guy he is. We'll be back.